Constellation Episode 5 delves deeper into exploring the origins of the tapes Joe receives in Episode 4's ending. At the same time, it also walks through Henry and Bud Caldera's escalating feud, which may eventually end with one of them dead. On the bright side, Episode 5 confirms that Joe's husband, Magnus, is still alive, even though Constellation's Episode 4's ending suggests that he was dead after Joe stuck him. Speaking of Joe, while she gets closer to learning about what is happening around her, it is hard not to wonder how she will solve the strange physics-defying problems she is experiencing. She has gotten her hand on Henry's Cal experiment, which might help her trigger another reality swap. However, as established in Constellation Episode 5, the solution for her quantum jump may not be as simple as it seems. Who is Joe talking to on the tapes in Constellation Episode 5's ending? Joe was not talking to her real daughter. Several clues in the early episodes of Constellation hinted that, after Paul triggered Henry Caldera's Cal experiment in space, the fabric of space and time ruptured for those who directly witnessed the experiment. Owing to this, after Joe returned home from space, she noticed how the world around her was not the same as she left it behind. In several flash-forwards, Constellation also reveals that Joe can see two iterations of her daughter but somehow never sees them together at the same time. While many aspects of Joe's reality are still a mystery, Episode 5 hints at what is happening to Alice and Joe. In one of the initial episodes of Constellation, Henry explains the concept of quantum superposition to Alice. He tells her that, according to quantum mechanics, the same particle can exist in two different states simultaneously. At the same time, it can also exist in a liminal space between its two different states, where it decides to exhibit the properties of one only when it is being observed. Henry's explanation is in tandem with the double-slit experiment in which a particle passed through a barrier with two slits. Instead of behaving like a particle after passing through the two slits, it shows wave-like properties by exhibiting interference patterns on the screen behind the barrier. Strangely, when one tries to measure the particle's path to determine which slit it is coming from, the interference pattern disappears. Something similar seems to be happening to Joe and Alice. Before the Cal experiment, Joe and Alice were the same particle existing in two different states. While Joe's alternate self seemingly died in space, she somehow ended up switching places with her alternate self. As a result, she is an alternate reality where Alice neither speaks Swedish nor calls her mama. Like the double-slit experiment, where the superposition disappears on observation, Joe's illusion of perceiving two versions of her daughter breaks when she tries to directly observe her real daughter. All in all, Joe talks to the real version of her daughter in the tapes, who is still in her original universe, believing that her mother is dead. What did Henry do to Bud Caldera? Bud wants revenge, but what did Henry do? Caldera, Jonathan Banks, stares into a mirror in Constellation. Jonathan Banks in Constellation. Like Joe switched places with her alternate self, Henry, too, seemingly did the same. However, unlike Joe, Henry's alternate version does not share the same name as him. His parallel universe counterpart's name is Bud Caldera, who is dead set on seeking revenge from him. While the details of why Bud seeks vengeance on Henry and is even willing to kill him remains unknown, it has something to do with their respective space missions. Before Henry and Bud switched places, Bud's space mission was going well. Meanwhile, something went wrong with the one Henry was involved in.